When I first started writing music, many years ago now, chords and stuff were kind of like this daunting concept to me with all these numbers and little symbols to keep track of. I remember as a beginner only playing octave chords with my left hand because I was all like, nah bro, melody is way more important and I just need to fill the space, and octaves are easy! But chords don't have to be so intimidating, I promise. And once the gears start to turn, you can use them to add so much color and cool tones to any musical idea you have. So, in this video, I'll be explaining how I write my chords now, as well as harmonies, while I write a smooth jazz song, since jazz is famous, or infamous, depending on who you ask, for having such intricate stuff in them. And also, because I freaking love jazz, dude. So yeah, let's do this. I'll play you the chords I wrote for the song and we'll go from there. Ah yeah, kinda sets the mood, right? Okay. So, chords are a bunch of notes played together to combine sounds and add layers to a song. That much is obvious, but there are many different types of chords. You could add tone reinforcement with a dyad, a two-note chord, or make it a triad, the basis of most Western music with 3 notes. There's also major and minor, or happy and sad sounding versions of all those, as well as the spooky diminished version. And don't forget the beautiful 7ths, 9ths, and other extension. But that's starting to sound kind of scary again, right? Too much going on. Basically, there's just a lot to choose from, but we're gonna keep it simple. Songs are written in keys, right? This time I wrote in C minor, so if I work within the key, I can use C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, and B flat. If I make chords with some combination of these notes, it'll work out. So to narrow it down, let's look at the main melody of this song. Look at the notes I use here, same selection. If I'm using, for example, E flat, F, and G a bunch in the melody, it would make sense for those same notes to be somewhere in my chords to support them. Building up music is all about combining what is stable and unstable. Stability being based on how much a note pulls to another note. With stable notes, those being what is matching in my melody and chords, it'll sound good and right. With unstable notes, they'll want to resolve back to stableness. So they'll sound a little bit strange at first, but it all makes sense when they go back. So this is why I'm using notes that don't match. Stable notes can also be thought of as the 1st, 3rd, and 5th degrees of a scale, while unstable notes are often the 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. I hope my little drawings here are making that a little easier to digest. This back and forth of stability and instability is what creates the experience of listening to music. Pair that with how you space out the notes in your chords, how and where you play them, and suddenly you have some really cool support and tones for your song. Throughout my jazzy song here, I move the position of where on the piano these chords are being played, as well as separating the notes out a bit in parts to add some variation of the same idea. Very neat. Yeah. So, in short, listen to what combinations of notes best suit your idea. And if all that sounds too crazy, you can always just play power chords. Those being the root note, a perfect fifth, and an octave. An absolute classic. When I'm writing an orchestral song or just a big arrangement, I'll usually record my chords first and play melodies over it. Whereas if I'm just jamming, I'll just make up random melodies and play chords under them with common notes, usually just moving around the distance of a few notes. And of course, don't be afraid to really have fun with the unstable notes and get really cool sounds, as I do a bunch in my jazzy song. When one of my coworkers recently learned I was into music, he asked me something like, "What's the hardest chord you've ever written? Like a diminished flat 3 raised 7 15th augmented?" And I was like, whoa, hold up, what? I don't really think he knew what he was saying there because I sure as hell was taken aback. Music doesn't have to be intense and complicated, or about numbers at all. It's totally okay if it is, but think about it, it's just a fun art form, just the same as painting, dancing, or acting. So now, let's talk about harmonies. To be honest, I wasn't even planning on covering them, as I don't really see them that different as writing melodies, but I guess if I was going to put them in a video, it just makes sense to put them here. So here we are. So you can be a beginner or a seasoned veteran and still feel a little overwhelmed by music production. It starts off as this fun little creative venture, and suddenly you're bombarded with melodies, harmonies, chords, arrangement, mixing, instrumentation, and all the pressure you put on yourself to make something cool. Can feel like a lot, you know? So let me try and knock off one of those demands to make it seem a little more welcoming, that being harmonies. So harmonies are all about having more tracks of notes to add color to your melody. But to me, in my writing process, I simply view them as more counter melodies. By just improvising over my main melody and chords, I'm automatically creating harmonies. And since I'm not in the mode of, okay, this is going to be the harmony, and it's going to go like this, and play these notes, it comes much more naturally and easily. So pretty much, harmonies to me are just more melodies, and I write them the same way. And if you'd like to see how I do that, I have a video like this one dedicated to melody writing. Feel free to check it out if you want. So remember my piano melody? Well, here are the harmonies, in quotations, that I wrote for it. Check it out. Lots of similarities for the notes I used, right? Lots of starting phrases on E flat, alternating between it and other notes, and lots of F, G, and B flat. I suppose the qualities that would make these harmonies would be how they use those unstable notes when the melody and chords use stable ones. This way, it always feels like there's a lot happening, and, like a lot to enjoy while we're listening. Our minds just love the patterns and intricacy that goes on when listening to music, and it's always a good time. And of course, writing music becomes even more fun when you start to discover new ways of combining and alternating these kinds of stability and creating all kinds of different moods. Pair that up with your own creative choices for the vibe you're going for, and bam, you have a banger. And if you're ever in the need of something to give you a little boost to write, I personally recommend having a little audience of penguins to keep you company. So, of course, now we have to listen to what all these qualities sound like together, right? So it's time to listen to the full song. So, that about wraps up everything I wanted to share in this video. As always, if you're creating music, remember to enjoy it. Trust me, if you chill out, the process will be way easier and way more fun. And also, as always, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. I know these videos aren't the most technical or anything, it's kind of just showing my way of working, so I try to keep it pretty broad, hopefully as a way to help out. Of course, feel free to comment below if you have any questions. Best of luck on your music adventures, and have a good one. Cheers, guys!